So in the last video, we went through the three different techniques of shading: stippling, crosshatching, and blending. So in this video, we're going to go through how to use them practically. So I've got a sheet of paper, and I'm going to divide that into three different sections by folding it halfway up and halfway down and then smooshing it. And if you want, you can use a ruler to make these lines and whatnot. But just so that we can see it a little bit better on the video, I'm going to go over these lines with pen. So what we're going to do in each one of these sections is we're going to draw a circle. And the circle is going to be roughly in the middle, but placed lower on the rectangles so that we have space above it and to the sides. So I've got three different circles in here. So the first thing that we need to do when doing any type of shading is first we are going to draw out what we are going to shade. Once we have drawn what we're going to shade, then we need to figure out where the light source is. So I'm going to represent that by drawing a little light bulb. And you can represent this any way that you want, but ultimately the main thing is that you know where the light source is coming from. The light source acts like a ray. It starts at one point and then moves out from that point. The closer the object is to the light, the brighter it will be. The farther away from that light source, the light will start to fade. If it's on the opposite side of where the light shows, that's where the shadow is. So if I take this light and I hold this sphere in front of it, you can see that on the side where the light is going to be your bright side, and on the other side is going to be your shadow side. Shadows are always on the opposite side of where the light source is coming from. Once I've established where my light source is coming from, then I can understand where the closest part is. So the closest part to this light bulb is right here. Since we're working with a sphere and it is curved equally the whole way around, we're going to represent those curves by doing circles. So that's all a sphere is circles that are stacked up one on top of the other to make it three-dimensional. So on this sphere, I'm going to represent that by doing a circle right here, because this is the closest part to the light. As we get farther away, those circles are going to spread out. Now when we get about halfway, that's when the light starts to change into shadow. But before we get to that, this part right here, the closest part, is going to be our white, or our number 1. This next ring is going to be our number 2, or our light gray. And then this third ring is going to be our regular gray, or number 3. Now once we've crossed past halfway, we're going to start getting into our darker shades. So this is going to be our dark gray, which is our number 4, and under here is going to be our black, which is our number 5. Now a lot of people struggle with the way to make shadows accurate. Like I said before, shadows are always on the opposite side from where the light is coming. To figure that out, you can also use the rays that lights make to figure out where the shadows touches the ground. To do that, we need to find the edges of our sphere, which if we take our center line, we can go from one side to the other and make 2 dots. Our light source is our center mark. So if we connect that dot from our light down to the edge of our object, that will help us to figure out where our shadow goes. So our shadow will go from here out to here and back. Now, considering that our sphere is typically not floating in the air, but sitting on the ground, if we put this on here, straighten out this line. If we put this on the ground reflects the light back. If there's nothing to reflect the light back, then the light will keep going, or it'll just dissipate. It'll disappear as it gets too far away. But when it's on a surface, there's going to be a reflection from the surface back onto our object. So down along the bottom here is going to be a shine, or the reflective spot it's going to be a reflection off of the surface that the object is sitting on. To represent that, considering this is black, it's going to go up one shade. So right here is going to be dark gray, our number 4. And since it dips a little bit into our dark gray, that's going to be regular gray, our number 3. So this shows us where the shading would take place. So once we've established where these spaces are, now we can begin our shading. In this first one, we're going to do blended, which is sometimes called tonal, because we're dealing with different grays. When we are shading, it's important to recognize where the edge of your surface is. We're going to follow that edge to do our shading. So I'm going to start down here and I'm going to work towards the light. So I'm going to shade here, and this is going to be my 5. This is going to be a little lighter gray here. And as I get closer, it's going to get lighter and lighter and lighter. Then I'm going to start with this edge, and I'm going to do the same thing. But I'm going to follow the edge, and that's going to show me where my lines go. Always working towards the shine. Since this is my gray, I'm going to skip that part, and then I'm going to just color this thing in a little bit lighter. And by following the edges around, it's going to give it a more three-dimensional look. And that's what we're trying to go for with our shading. And then our shadow is going to again be our 5, so that's going to be really nice and dark. In our second sphere, we're going to be working with cross-hatching. And we're going to follow the same process. This time my light source I'm going to put right here. And I'm going to put a little flame. That's going to be my light source. So we find the closest part to our light source. And we start making So these are our three different techniques for shading. Tonal blending, which works best with a pencil. Cross-hatching, which works best with a pen or a sharp tool. Stippling, which works best with a marking tool that leaves a mark like a marker.